Chapter 9 is on models of chemical bonding. So what we're going to see in this chapter is kind of a review of a lot of concepts from previous chapters. So there's a significant qualitative part to this chapter, but there actually are two sort of meaty calculations that we're going to see. So a lot of the qualitative piece has to do with thinking about the types of bonding that we'll see, remembering that ionic bonding comes from metals and nonmetals that we put together. Covalent bonding comes from two nonmetals that we put together, and we're really not going to spend too much time talking about metallic bonding, but that's obviously two metals that interact with one another. So lots of qualitative questions. If you were given a laundry list of compounds to identify whether it's an ionic, a covalent, or a metallic compound. And then also thinking about lots of different properties, whether it's ranking properties of ionic compounds like lattice energy, whether it's thinking about some properties of covalent compounds like bond length or bond strength or bond order. So lots of qualitative pieces there. And then two sort of meaty problems relate to previous concepts that we learned in Chapter 6. So we're going to talk about lattice energy, and then we're going to talk about a new way to get delta H of reaction using bond energies. So again, a lot of these sort of represent a, not reality in terms of what we do experimentally in the lab, but for lattice energy, we can imagine taking a nonmetal and a metal and kind of doing some interesting things in the gas phase that basically are costs, and then bringing those ions together as gains, and that electrostatic interaction is that lattice energy. So again, that's kind of a meaty problem to think about the enthalpy of forming ionic compounds. And then when we think about the enthalpy that we have in forming covalent compounds, this is very similar to delta H of reaction that we saw in Chapter 6. And we kind of mentally envision taking a compound and breaking every single bond apart and then remaking every single bond. And so that sort of thought exercise helps us get to enthalpies for processes, but it's not in reality what happens. At the very end of the chapter, and again, more of one of these type 1 skills, we're going to talk about electronegativity and bond polarity. And all of this stuff is going to continue to push us through these last two chapters that we have in Gen Chem 1, which then get us to think about covalent compounds and generally their structure and polarity in molecules.